Previously on S vs. Chronicles. Tsukisune, a half-kitsune lunar goddess, her pet dragon of the night Zuko, her necrosmic mentor Julia Legrand, and a team of champions she assembled find themselves in a heated battle against two incredibly powerful groups of foes. The first group was composed of Tsukisune's nemesis, Saruthocles, a demigod with unimaginable strength and combat skill. He assembled a group of champions whose strength, powers, and intelligence were all well balanced. Tsukisune and Saruthocles had been preparing for this battle for an entire year. The lunar god of Fantaji, Tsukisune's father, had set this challenge to see if his daughter would be worthy enough to return home to their side of the mystic veil, which, at the moment, was impossible for her to do with her pure kitsune magic being tainted by her dark necrosmic abilities. The god had also told Saruthocles that if he were to be victor, then the title of god and the powers that come with it would all be his. The second powerful group of foes ambushed the battles taking place between Tsukisune's team and Saruthocles' team. The group was comprised of escaped superpowered convicts from a formerly inescapable supermax facility. These individuals have a long-running list of crimes, with the most notable being weapons and drug trafficking and murder. The group is being led by Rodrigo Reyes, codenamed Nagato Nerve. His team had discovered wanted posters in the supermax facility containing information on the top 5 most wanted power users. As it turns out, Nagato has an informant who is close to the action taking place on the battlefield. They explain that all 5 of the people they were searching for were all involved in this Gods and Champions war. Seeking a large payday for him and his newly formed crew, they traveled to Tennessee where the battle was taking place and intervened. The battlefield had changed immensely since the battle first started hours ago. What was once a beautiful green field surrounded by trees on a gorgeous sunny day was now a field set ablaze by dragonfire, and a dark night sky began blanketing the area with the full moon out in the middle of the day. Rubble and debris scattered everywhere the eye could see. The sounds of large explosions and screams were heard from the clashing of powers, and the smell of death filled the air on this once beautiful Tennessee morning. Kylie Johnson, codename Uncontrollable, was holding her own up in the sky against the blower. Saruthocles' only flying power user who wasn't captured, injured, or dead. Uncontrollable was manipulating her aura to remain airborne, all while simultaneously attacking the blower with water and fire aura attacks. Some of the attacks would get close enough to the blower, but she would ultimately dodge or strike back with her own shrieking wind attacks. Some of the attacks would backfire at Uncontrollable, and she would get hurt or have her aura explode in her face, and she didn't know why. Down below, watching the battle, was Lady Cardiac, who was hired to help Nagato and his crew escape from the Supermax facility. Lady Cardiac is a mercenary for hire and doesn't easily find herself attached to people or things. However, something was off about her. Lady Cardiac couldn't tell if she cared about what was happening with Uncontrollable or just intrigued by the fact that Uncontrollable's aura abilities were unstable from both being an aura user and an Evo ability user. Uncontrollable is rare in this regard because it is unheard of for someone to have both gifts. Lady Cardiac decided to set her attention to her rival Drake, codenamed Storm Surge. She instantly teleported herself in his direction as she sensed the presence of another aura user. As the battle continued, Dr. Easton Watts, codenamed Brainiac, came to assist his colleague, the Blower. Brainiac used his illusion ability to make Uncontrollable see things that weren't there. She landed on the ground and used her Evo ability to control the Earth and began launching boulders across the field. Few of the other combatants on the field were able to dodge the barrage. Brainiac, alongside the Blower, and the now deceased Dr. Sophia Cord, had worked on a device they hoped would win the war for their side. The device was a neural scrambler. It had the ability to rewrite the memories of anyone the device was attached to. It had 2 components to it, a remote and a receiver. As Brainiac pulled out the receiver to place on Uncontrollable's head, a sharp feather flew from the sky and destroyed the device. Captain Air flew down from the sky with her angelic wings accompanied by Ella, codenamed Flyer. The Blower flew down to protect Brainiac. She had loyalty to him and Dr. Cord because they were the ones who tried to help her after she had her psychotic break. The Blower sent in a wind scythe at high speed towards Captain Air and Flyer. Captain Air manipulated the density of her wings and easily defended against the wind scythes. Their battle continued until an unexpected little girl entered the fight. Peyton Miners, codenamed Puppet Master, came skipping onto the battlefield with 3 dolls in her possession. Their names were Anjana, Rachel, and Gia. Anjana was a green-haired zombie puppet with button eyes. It was dressed up like her down to the tattered dress with bloodstains. Rachel looked like a pink bunny rabbit that had seen better days. It was stitched back together using purple fabric. It had 1 button eye and 1 stitched eye. Gia was a black frog-like doll with bright yellow hair. It had a bow in place of 1 ear and a needle and spindle in place of the other ear. It wore a black stitched shirt and had sunken eyes. Puppet Master's abilities are unique to the doll she uses. While holding Anjana, she can create objects out of clay that physically connect to the real-life objects the clay is mimicking. Puppet Master used this ability to fashion a set of wings for Anjana. She then threw Anjana across the field, and Captain Air was sent across the field and collided with Flyer. Brainiac was about to put Puppet Master under hypnotic trance when she suddenly put thumbtacks in Rachel's head. Brainiac froze as his ability was being used against him. While poking thumbtacks into Rachel, Puppet Master can reflect an ability user's power back at them. Brainiac was caught in his own trance. He was a pink rabbit voodoo doll named Nellie. He was stuck in a Halloween shop and was trying to escape, but a human grabbed him and began stabbing him with needles repeatedly. Somehow, even under his own trance, he felt like this may have oddly been the life the puppet had experienced. With Brainiac unable to resume the battle, the blower created a gust of wind that sent Rachel out of the Puppet Master's hands. Puppet Master grabbed Gia and held her up. The string on the spindle began to levitate and wrapped around Uncontrollable. Uncontrollable was no longer under Brainiac's trance, but was now unable to control her own body. It would seem full control was granted to the frog doll. Puppet Master then proceeded to use Uncontrollable's body to fight the blower. As time passed, the state of the war had begun to shift. The pumpkin-headed fighter formerly known as Jester shed his disguise to reveal his true identity as Nervoid. Nervoid is an aura user from another dimension whose true goal is to collect the cosmic stones of infinite power. There are 5 stones in total, and when all 5 stones are gathered, they will form the cosmic crown, an almighty relic that would grant the wearer access to every dimension in existence and would allow them to shape any dimension according to their will. As luck would have it, there were several power users currently on the battlefield. Ceruthocles is in possession of the Green Rift Stone, a combat-class stone that allows the wielder to rip through the fabric of space and open portals to other dimensions. Ceruthocles managed to do this once accidentally with his battle against the monstrous warrior. He opened a fissure that revealed another stone wielder, Kosh V. Kosh V is a Chronite in possession of the Blue Chronostone. This support-class stone allows the wielder to manipulate time 3 different ways up to once a day. Kosh V had already used their ability to stop time for 5 minutes a day when they appeared before Tsukisune to let her know about who they are and about the war taking place. Kosh V can also rewind time up to half an hour once per day, and see an hour into the future once per day. Zuko is in possession of the Purple Amplify Stone, a combat-class stone that allows the wielder to amplify their natural abilities to another level. When Zuko activated the ability of the stone, he became a full-size adult dragon and unleashed his abilities as the Dragon of the Night to bring about nightfall and a full moon in the middle of the day. The 4th stone wielder is Nervoid, who revealed himself to be in possession of the Yellow Life Stone, a support-class stone that allows the wielder to steal life force energy from another, give life force energy to another, heal from any injury, and be granted immunity from diseases. One final stone remains, but Nervoid is certain that it will show up sooner rather than later. As Nervoid finishes sharing the truth about his past to Lady Cardiac and Drake, he unleashes streams of energy across the field and begins sapping the life force from all the combatants. Many of the champions began feeling fatigued and collapsed to the ground. Nagato tried defending against Nervoid's power by attempting to absorb the energy, which may have been working, but Ceruthocles quickly blasted Nagato with cosmic energy and knocked him out cold. Nervoid felt like the stone's power was working on everyone, but soon realized that it had no effect on the other stone wielders, the Necro Witch Julia Legrand, the monstrous warrior, Musculo, the other aura users, and Tsukisune. Tsukisune was on the ground screaming because the power inside of her was being amplified by her connection to Zuko. Since they shared a vitality link, anything that affects one of them will affect the other. In this case, because Zuko is in possession of the Amplify Stone and amplified his abilities to transform, Tsukisune is going through the same transformation. Ceruthocles stood there waiting patiently for the transformation to finish. He wanted to fight Tsukisune at her strongest so he could take everything away from her. Her hopes, her dreams, her friends, her family, her home, and her life. Tsukisune's black and white hair became a shade of red. Her 3 black tails changed to orange. Her muscles began to grow, especially in her legs. The Kitsu blade she held that was made of bone began to transform as well. The sword grew a real handle and had a large fox head grow on the guard of the hilt. The blade became wider and sharper as well. Tsukisune's eyes began to glow red and white lunar markings stretched along her face. At the center of her forehead was a glowing red moon. As her transformation was nearing its end, the white moon began to glow a reddish hue. Then, a black shadow cast over the moon, shrouding the battlefield in crimson darkness. Julia Legrand approached her student and asked, "Are you ready, Eclipsia?" Tsukisune could tell with her kitsune senses that the young lady approaching her was her mentor and teacher without the pudgy figure and wrinkles. She wasn't sure how she became young, but threw the question aside. Tsukisune then responded, "Yes, I am." Cerulticles charged up a stone and was ready to continue battling. Julia called forth a skeletal army from the ground, but they were quickly dealt with when Cerulticles unleashed a powerful green shockwave on the ground. Tsukisune swiftly moved in close to Cerulticles and struck him with her Kitsu blade. Although the green energy around Cerulticles protected him from being slashed in half, he did feel the force from her strike across his chest. Cerulticles had a feeling of excitement like the time he fought against the monstrous warrior. The battle continued with Julia attempting to use long-range magic and Tsukisune sticking to close-range strikes. The two figured they were wearing down Cerulticles, but the demigod showed that he could probably go at this speed for days. Zuko flew in from above and prepared a fire breath. Tsukisune cast a spell and was swallowed up by the ground. The fire came crashing down on Cerulticles. Julia put up a barrier spell around herself to protect her from the flames. Then at the center of the fire was a green glow. Cerulticles was gathering energy in his fist, and then sent it outward with a punch. Zuko safely flew away, but the energy that missed him created a large crackling sound, and a fissure opened up in the middle of the sky. Tsukisune came up from the ground and struck Cerulticles again with her Kitsu blade. In a fit of rage, he volleyed several green blasts her way. With her new heightened agility, she evaded each blast. Some of the blasts exploded when they physically contacted with other objects around the battlefield, and others created new fissures. Drake and Lady Cardiac were fighting against Nervoid when they began seeing the glowing fissures appear across the battlefield. They witnessed people, creatures, beasts, and more come out of the fissures. Kosh V was standing away from the battles taking place. They were noticing that the pages of their multiversal tomb were glowing as new beings entered this new dimension. The names of the stories of these beings began to fill the pages. The names Nervous Nancy, Captain Shifty, the Surfer Twins, and the Dark Mind all appeared within the book with several other names. Uncontrollable was checking up on Captain Air and Flyer when someone came out of the glowing fissure in the sky. Kosh V took notice and read the name aloud appearing in the multiversal tomb, the Wind King. Kosh V wasn't the only one to notice. Uncontrollable, Nervoid, Lady Cardiac, and Drake could all sense that this new combatant was an aura user. Meanwhile, Musculo and the monstrous warrior were in a heated battle. Neither one of these two powerhouses noticed any of the events that have been taking place around them. That was until a fissure opened between them and a yellow dinosaur humanoid being came out. Kosh V read the name Muscle Rex. Kosh V grew nervous and needed to figure out a way they could help. They began charging up the cosmic energy from their chronostone, then their eyes began glowing blue. Kosh V was witnessing all the possible events that would take place 1 hour into the future. After their eyes returned to normal, they knew there was only one way for this war to be concluded. Kosh V ran towards the battle taking place between Cerulticles and Tsukisune. Kosh V had already shared the original outcome of the war with Tsukisune before the battle got too far in. The events between the original storyline and the current events have changed considerably, but the anchor points of the events have not. Kosh V flagged down Zuko, and the mighty purple dragon flew down to the ground. Kosh V told Zuko that he needs to leave Tsukisune and head over to the battle taking place between Musculo, the monstrous warrior, and Muscle Rex. Zuko stared at Kosh V and then turned to meet Tsukisune's eyes as she was evading Cerulticles' sword strikes with his trusted sword, Ascalon. The moment their eyes met, Zuko knew he could trust Kosh V. Zuko flew over to the intense battle taking place between the brutes and left Tsukisune behind. Julia summoned a death plant that looked like a Venus flytrap merged with a kraken. It unleashed its tendrils and wrapped around Cerulticles. Cerulticles drew on his demigod power for the first time in a long while. He created an earthquake that shook the plant ferociously until its roots could no longer hold to the ground. Cerulticles then put his fist into the ground, and when he pulled it out, it was covered by a stone gauntlet. "I ripped a hole through your body before when it was an older, plumpier witch. It will be my pleasure to do it again with this new body of yours." "I'd like to see you try. Don't underestimate us, Cerulticles. We have been training for this very moment." "Dear little fox, I must say you have surprised me. You have become stronger and more agile than that scared little fox I remember meeting a year ago. However, this time is different. This time, I'll be given that which I seek when this is all over. And believe you me, little fox, What I seek will bring me great joy and bring misery to... A blast of blue energy shot at Ceruthocles and sent him rolling on the ground. The shot came from Kosh V. I'm tired of this version of the story. Let's put an end to this chapter quickly. Kosh V was super nervous and couldn't believe they struck Ceruthocles down. They spoke with confidence, but that was all just for show. Then Julia and Tsukisune stepped forward and smiled at Kosh V. Their nerves subsided, and the three of them charged at Ceruthocles.
You know who made it.
The monstrous warrior has lived for centuries. He has been in countless battles with gods and demigods. He enjoyed taking on strong opponents. The monstrous warrior joined Ceruthocles because he believed that he would find more exciting opponents to fight. When Musculo came in swinging with his hammer, he knew he had just found that. Musculo was able to take a beating and dish it back out. For hours, these two brawlers kept on striking with their fists and their respective weapons. The monstrous warrior had his trident with him that had seen many battles and had taken the lives of many, including the most recent kill, the Digger. Musculo had his mighty hammer that he named the Cosmic Hammer. It has no relation to the cosmic stones, but certainly has some unique properties. The hammer can defend against all matter of energy-based attacks, and can handle the unbelievable power of Musculo's brute strength. Like the monstrous warrior, Musculo enjoys fighting and hurting others. The two were feeling excited showing off their power in a battle against an equally strong opponent. The monstrous warrior would shoot out fire from his body, and Musculo would clap his hands, creating a shockwave through the air to stop the fire from reaching him. The battle was very much even and continued in this manner until an 8-foot-tall yellow dinosaur humanoid appeared before them walking out of a fissure. The new combatant's name was Muscle Rex. He had orange spikes running down from the top of his head to the middle of his spine. He wore red pants that were torn by his shins, and he carried a carrot sword. Without skipping a beat, Muscle Rex went in swinging with his carrot sword at both combatants. The carrot sword was quickly met with the cosmic hammer and trident. The three brutes smiled and continued the onslaught. Musculo threw his hammer at Muscle Rex, and Muscle Rex blocked it using his carrot sword. The force of the hammer's throw was too strong, and the carrot sword went flying behind him along with the cosmic hammer. With his opponent unarmed, the monstrous warrior struck quickly with his flaming trident. Muscle Rex was able to spin out of the way and used his large hands to grab the monstrous warrior by the face and slammed him into the ground. Musculo tried to take advantage of the situation and jumped up into the sky with his two fists balled up. He came crashing down on the back of Muscle Rex's head. The enormous force created by this maneuver sent the monstrous warrior's head deeper into the earth. Muscle Rex's claws ended up piercing the monstrous warrior's face and into his skull. The flames the monstrous warrior attempted to emit to stop Muscle Rex had no effect. Muscle Rex's skin, as it turns out, is impervious to feeling heat. The monstrous warrior was very much still alive, but under tremendous amount of pain. The spikes along Muscle Rex's spine penetrated through Musculo's arms. Musculo was writhing in pain. Muscle Rex shook off Musculo and grinned. He charged at him and began slashing up Musculo's face with his claws. Musculo was unable to defend himself with his arms out of commission. Musculo tried to kick Muscle Rex, but the yellow dino was eagerly waiting. Muscle Rex grabbed Musculo's leg and began swinging him over his head and smashing his body to the ground repeatedly. With blood dripping down his face, the monstrous warrior got up and reached for his trident. He then threw it at Muscle Rex, but again, this beast was all too prepared. He used Musculo as a shield, and the trident penetrated through the behemoth's chest. Musculo's body began to lose its muscular appearance, and the skinny dead body that remained showed that Saul Mendoza was no more. Muscle Rex grinned and went charging towards the monstrous warrior. Suddenly, up in the sky was Zuko using his dragon fire on both the monstrous warrior and Muscle Rex. Both combatants were immune to fire, but could feel the magic residing within the flames causing them physical damage. The two jumped out of the flames to prevent further damage. Zuko had the greatest vantage point from the sky. He could see Tsukisune's battle with Ceruthocles. Everything seemed like it was under control. Tsukisune raised an army of kitsune skeletons to fight off Ceruthocles, and Julia Legrand did the same with a human skeletal army of her own. Kosh V disappeared in a flash of blue light and then reappeared in the same spot. Kosh V looked like they were trembling, then they began shooting blue waves of energy at Ceruthocles. Zuko could also see Uncontrollable fighting against a guy with a jetpack in the sky, and Lady Cardiac and Drake taking care of Nervoid on the ground. With his amplified senses, he could tell that they were all emitting a similar wavelength. Zuko directed his attention back at the brawlers in front of him. He flew down towards the ground and unleashed another large stream of dragon fire. Muscle Rex ran around the flames to avoid getting hurt, while the monstrous warrior remained where he was and emitted a large outward burst of fire. This was enough to shield him, and he took no damage at all. Muscle Rex jumped up onto Zuko's back when he was close enough to the ground. Muscle Rex tried stabbing his claws through Zuko's hide, but it was way too tough even for him to get through. Muscle Rex changed tactics and began wailing on the back of the dragon's head with a barrage of punches. Zuko was taking damage, and he knew this would also be causing Tsukisune damage as well. Zuko quickly spun around like a drill in the sky, and Muscle Rex flew off Zuko's back and quickly slammed into the ground below. The monstrous warrior ran towards Muscle Rex with the trident he reacquired from Musculosa's corpse. He used the abilities to create a flame at the tip and stabbed it through the dinosaur's own mouth. "Your outsides may be fireproof, but your insides aren't!" Muscle Rex's body lay there motionless. The monstrous warrior then turned his attention to Zuko. Uncontrollable manipulated her fire aura and sent it directly towards the Wind King. The Wind King had entered this world through the fissure in the sky created by Saruthocles' cosmic riftstone. The Wind King was wearing a helmet with goggles, a thick blue jacket, white pants, combat boots, knee pads, and gloves. He also had an intricately designed jetpack. The jetpack didn't require fuel. From what the aura users could tell, the Wind King channeled his wind aura through the mechanism to induce flight. The Wind King managed to evade the barrage of fire and was flying closer to Uncontrollable. Uncontrollable then changed her wind aura to water and tried to douse the Wind King in hopes of damaging his jetpack. This unfortunately failed as the water didn't cause any mechanical malfunction to occur. When the Wind King got close enough to Uncontrollable, he unleashed a stream of quick-moving wind that shot out like a bullet. Uncontrollable flew backwards in the sky and began to fall. She channeled her wind aura to create a cloud she could step on. She regained her footing and attempted to mix the elements of her aura. She tried to combine water and wind and created a stream of fast-moving water, similar to the Wind King's wind bullets from just moments ago. Down below, Nervoid was facing off against Drake and Lady Cardiac. Lady Cardiac used her teleportation abilities to avoid all Nervoid's attacks. Nervoid used his aura to camouflage himself with his surroundings, making him seemingly invisible. This trick didn't work on Lady Cardiac. She used her aura ability to sense Nervoid's aura. Once she locked in on his aura, she used her special ability that was very unique to the aura user community. She manipulated Nervoid's aura to temporarily become something different. She made his aura ability the ability to manipulate his hair. The camouflage disappeared and Nervoid was now sporting a Rapunzel-like hairstyle. Being able to see his opponent, Drake supercharged up his lightning aura and unleashed a powerful bolt right at Nervoid. Nervoid used his new hair manipulation to create a hair cocoon barrier. Although the lightning was powerful, Nervoid avoided all damage. The hair began to dissolve and Nervoid's aura went back to normal. The Wind King flew into the middle of the battle taking place on the ground. He opened his mouth wide and began to inhale. His aura ability created a vacuum that resulted in the combatants getting sucked in towards him. Once they were close, he channeled his aura through his jetpack and created a vortex of air on the ground. Drake, Lady Cardiac, and Nervoid were all being spun around in the vortex. Uncontrollable landed on the ground and used her Evo abilities to control the earth. She sent a bunch of rubble and debris on the ground, spinning around the vortex in the opposite direction. The debris moved quickly enough that the vortex canceled out. The Wind King lost the grin on his face, and he became very serious. Nervoid was also very angry and began channeling the yellow energy of his cosmic lifestone. The Wind King shot a wind bullet from his mouth towards the marking of the third eye on Nervoid's forehead. Nervoid's head snapped backwards from the force, and his head landed on the ground. Lady Cardiac, Drake, and Uncontrollable were all stunned and didn't move a muscle. The Wind King started walking towards the other aura users. He closed about half the distance when something unthinkable happened. Nervoid's body began to move. The body traveled towards the head and he put the head back into place. Nervoid's eyes opened and he cracked his neck and began to stretch. "Oh, you look upset. Did you think you got me? Well, that's nothing to lose your head over." Nervoid channeled more yellow energy and sent a blast right at the Wind King. The Wind King was blasted backwards and rolled on top of the ground. When the dust settled, the Wind King's body was all shriveled up. Nervoid used his cosmic stone to absorb the Wind King's life energy. Drake, Lady Cardiac, and Uncontrollable knew that they couldn't afford any mistakes, or they would certainly lose their lives. Nervoid attacked using his yellow energy towards the group. Lady Cardiac teleported to safety, while Drake and Uncontrollable were left to deal with Nervoid. Uncontrollable tried manipulating her aura to combine fire and air. However, since her aura is unstable, she created an explosion resulting in her getting blown backwards across the field. The yellow energy just about made it to Drake when his lightning aura protected him. Your lightning is alive? How is that possible? Your guess is as good as mine, pal. I really don't understand it myself. All I know is that we've got to take you down. Lady Cardiac was at a safe distance away from the battle. She was looking across the field to take mental notes of what was happening around them. It was then she noticed that the fissures were all closing. This gave her a great idea. She then teleported to Uncontrollable and filled her in on her plan. Afterwards, the two ladies joined up with Drake to put their new plan into action. Uncontrollable created pillars of rocks behind Nervoid and dragged them towards him. The rocks began pushing him towards the group. Nervoid used the energy from the Cosmic Lifestone to create bursts of energy that destroyed the pillars. Drake ran in and attacked with a lightning blade. Drake had been training his lightning aura to create a technique that he could use in the war. This lightning blade is the best he could create. Drake outstretches his arm, and the aura covering his arm turns it into pure electrical energy. This new technique became his lightning blade. Nervoid wasn't expecting this attack and had surrounded his body in the yellow cosmic energy to protect himself. Uncontrollable propelled herself towards Nervoid using a combination of fire and wind aura. She grabbed onto Nervoid and began flying him up into the sky. Lady Cardiac noticed that Uncontrollable's aura was twitching and turning the wind aura into water aura. Lady Cardiac immediately helped Uncontrollable by manipulating the water aura back into wind aura. Thanks to this effort, Uncontrollable was able to send Nervoid through one of the fissures before it completely closed. Lady Cardiac filled Drake in on the plan to remove Nervoid from this dimension. She explained that this was a temporary fix because she knew that Nervoid would most likely find his way back again. Before Drake could speak, they noticed a bright purple light being emitted by Zuko. Zuko is channeling the power of the Cosmic Amplify Stone. His whole body was glowing, and he unleashed an even more amplified version of the Dragon Flame at the Monstrous Warrior. The Monstrous Warrior tried to fight the flames, but knew it was futile. He dropped his trident and laughed. He truly enjoyed the battles of this war. The Monstrous Warrior was engulfed by dragon fire and completely disintegrated. Julia Legrand was commanding an earth golem from a spell she cast. It was 10 feet tall and was made up of a combination of dirt, rocks, sand, and grass. The golem grabbed onto Ceruthocles and tried holding him down. Ceruthocles was just too powerful, though. Using the energy from his cosmic riftstone, he unleashed a green wave of energy that destroyed the earth golem. Tsukisune was feeling the rage and amplified power that was coming from Zuko. The power was further amplifying Tsukisune to the point that she was glowing purple. She clashed with Ceruthocles, and both their energies began to merge. The merged energies flew into the sky, and a crackling sound was heard very high in the sky, followed by a wave of purple and green light that looked like shimmering diamonds in the sky. Ceruthocles channeled more cosmic energy into his stone gauntlet, and Tsukisune began channeling the power of the lunar eclipse she created during a transformation into her hand. Ceruthocles and Tsukisune ran towards each other with their hands outstretched, and the two energies collided. A massive force of wind and lightning was created where the energies were colliding. The force began to blow the unconscious bodies across the battlefield. Julia Legrand and Kashvi were standing perfectly fine behind the barrier Julia created. Kashvi looked down at the device on their wrist and told Julia it was almost time. Julia was about to question Kashvi, but something strange happened. A giant kaiju snake began slithering through the forest, making a beeline straight towards Ceruthocles and Tsukisune. Julia was getting her wand ready when Kashvi put their hand on her arm and shook their head no. The snake looked down at the two demigods carefully. Tsukisune could sense that something was off about the snake. Ceruthocles charged cosmic energy into a stone gauntlet and aimed it at the snake. The snake was unfazed and quickly struck Ceruthocles. It opened its mouth and shot out venom that slowed Ceruthocles down. Tsukisune backed away from the snake and watched carefully. Ceruthocles felt a sensation that he was all too unfamiliar with. It was fear. The snake's piercing eyes stared into Ceruthocles', and it went in to eat him. "This is not the end, little fox. This war is far from over. We shall meet again." The snake began to swallow Ceruthocles when it suddenly exploded, a wave of green light emitting from where the snake once was. The snake's body began to fade, and silence swept up the battlefield for the first time. Everyone was confused by what had happened. Everyone, except for Tsukisune and Kashvi. Kashfi explained everything. They explained how the events of this war were supposed to play out originally. They explained that the original storyline had changed, but the anchor points of the events have not. The giant snake was one of the anchor points, an event that no matter how much time is altered will always take place. Kashfi explained how in the middle of the battle they used their cosmic chronostone to go back half an hour in time. When they went back in time, they ran down to the nearby city to use a phone and call for help from a school up in New York. This school is an institute for ability users who have no place to go. It's a place where they can learn to harness their abilities and live freely without fear. A boy walked down towards Tsukisune and the others from just beyond the tree line. The boy's name was G, who is now calling himself Daydreamer. Daydreamer can turn their imagination to reality when he is asleep. He had been training for months to use his abilities while he was awake. Today was the first time that his abilities worked while he wasn't sleeping. The only thing I don't understand is, what happened to Ceruthocles? The flash of light you saw was him using his Riftstone to open a portal to another dimension. He's still out there, Tsukisune, and he will be back again one day. Does this mean you won't be able to return home? The thought began to cross Tsukisune's mind. Her father had her go through this trial to see if she was worthy enough to return home. Without defeating Ceruthocles, would she ever be worthy? As time passed, the authorities and the media came in to surround the area where the battle took place. Luckily for Tsukisune, Captain Air was a local hero and was able to handle the questions from the authorities and the press. Tsukisune did take the time to thank everyone that helped her. She felt terrible about the number of casualties they had on all sides. She felt terrible about how her friends got hurt to help her. She felt terrible that the fights they endured today were all for nothing. Her father and the other gods have not come down to claim the victor. As everyone was just about ready to split up, another fissure opened up before them. 5 individuals came out and looked around at the carnage. The one with red hair began to walk up to the group and said, "Was this caused by the demon army? Which devil rules over this dimension? We're the dimensional adventurers, and we're here to help." Thank you all for sticking with me through this long video. This has been an incredibly long journey for our heroes. There are still so many questions that need to be answered in the aftermath of the Gods and Champions War, like, will Tsukisune return to Fantasia? Will Julie Legrand backstab Tsukisune? Will Ceruthocles be back? Will Nervoid return? What is going to happen with the other aura users? Who are the dimensional adventurers? I hope to be able to answer all these questions and more in future videos, so if you like this video, please leave it a like, comment below your favorite S-Verse character or moment, and if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing to stay up to date with more story and Speedpaint videos like this one. That is all for now. I'll see you all in the next video sometime in August or September when I return from summer break. You all take care, have a good one, bye-bye.